highlighting history of suburban Sydney with the St Peter's Cooks River History Group.
Our aim is to preserve and promote local history.
We are based at St Peter's in Sydney's inner west.
Before European arrival, the area, known today as Alexandria, was inhabited by the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
In 1794, John King received a 30-acre grant north of the Waterloo estate, which he cleared and developed. It became known as King's Clear.
James Chisholm and William Hutchinson received grants in 1819.
The parish of Alexandria was established in 1835. The naming of Alexandria and neighbouring Waterloo commemorates the famous British Empire military and naval victories over Napoleon, the battles of Alexandria and Waterloo.
John King sold 14 acres of his land to Robert Henderson in 1838. Henderson specialised in growing roses, camellias, orchids, dahlias and fruit trees. His name is commemorated in Henderson Road.
Alexandria was mainly known for its market gardens along the banks of Shays Creek. Many of the early gardeners were Chinese, and their produce was sent to the Sydney markets, which were on the site of the Queen Victoria building.
From the 1840s, laws were passed banning noxious trades from the city of Sydney. Noxious trades included slaughterhouses, tanneries and soap makers. Their offensive smell and effluent were regarded as a health risk. Many noxious trades, by-products of the sheep industry, became established on Sewer Road, now O'Riordan Street.
At that time, brickmakers were also ejected from Brickfield Hill. Alexandria's vast clay deposits led to the establishment of brick pits, which became one of the largest brick-making areas of Sydney.
Alexandria started government life as the West Ward of Waterloo Municipality. The suburb separated from Waterloo in 1868 and was incorporated as the Borough of Alexandria. 80 years later, it was made part of the City of Sydney. In 1968, it was moved to the Municipality of South Sydney Council, which was integrated into the City of Sydney in 2004.
A site for a town hall was acquired by the council in Garden Street in 1879. The town hall was completed in 1881, with a new facade added in 1928.
Formed in 1877, the first fire brigade in the area, the Mount Lachlan Volunteer Company, predated the Fire Brigades Act. It was disbanded in 1885.
Alexandria's second fire brigade was the Albion Volunteer Company, which operated from 1879 on Buckland Street.
The third fire brigade, the Alexander Volunteer Company, also known as the Waterloo and Alexandria Brigade, was formed in 1880. It was disbanded in 1886 following the formation of the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. This brigade operated out of a station on Gerrard Street for 20 years before moving to a new station at the corner of Mitchell Road and Ashmore Street in 1907. It closed in 1945. The building was demolished in the late 1970s.
Residents campaigned for a park. Alexandria Park was proclaimed in 1889. The site was formerly Chinese Market Gardens. Improvements were made in the mid-1890s when rows of Port Jackson figs were planted on boundaries.
Concrete gateways date from 1939. The Richard Powell Memorial Gates commemorate an alderman and mayor who died in that year.
From 1889, there were 3 cricket wickets. An oval was later created. A pavilion opened in 1905. From the 1940s, Redfern All Blacks Aboriginal Rugby Football Club trained and played matches there.
A tennis court and clubhouse, built in 1939, replaced earlier tennis facilities. A new clubhouse was constructed in 1977.
From 1885, deputations are made to have a public school at Alexandria. However, the school's foundation stone was not laid until 1903.
Alexandria Canal was created by the excavation of Shays Creek. using unemployed relief workers between 1887 and 1900 during the Great Depression. King Edward VII's wife anglicised her name and became Queen Alexandra. When the canal was formally named in 1901, it became the Alexandria Canal, even though the district through which it ran was called Alexandria. The canal was originally intended to link Botany Bay and Port Jackson. This plan was abandoned, and it only went as far as Huntley Street.
During excavation for the canal, bones of a dugong and 3 ground-edged stone hatchets were discovered. Radiocarbon dating of the dugong bones demonstrated they were around 6,000 years old. The bones of the dugong and the stone hatchets are held in the Australian Museum.
No water was drawn from the canal until an act was passed which banned noxious trades from those parts of Sydney which had been developed as residential areas. These trades needed fresh water. The government assisted industries in re-establishing themselves on the banks of Shays Creek, as well as using it as a drain for an effluent into Botany Bay.
Following 1889 flooding in areas surrounding Shays Creek, it was recognised that this low-lying land was more suited to industry than housing. The draining of these swamps opened large areas of land for industrial development.
By 1890, it was estimated that about 100 members of the Chinese community lived in Retreat Street. The Yu Ming Temple, the only temple dedicated to Hung Shing in Australia, constructed in 1908, is one of the oldest surviving Chinese temples in Australia.
The post office, built in 1898 on the corner of Mitchell and Henderson Roads, has been replaced by a modern building.
The Alexandria tramline opened in 1902 as a single-track electric line, which was duplicated in 1910. It terminated with the Cooks River line at Princess Highway near St Peters Railway Station. The line closed in 1959.
The Engineman's Rest House was built in 1902-1903, when the Railway Commissioners resumed land on Brandling Street. The construction of new barracks provided accommodation for train drivers, firemen and guards when they were away from their homes. The building was used by the State Rail Authority's fire protection services during the 1980s and 90s. It is now a private residence.
The Alice Rawson School for Mothers in Burke Street was established to combat high infant mortality rates and to promote hygiene. The government took over the school in 1914 and Australia's first baby health centre began operation.
After the connection of electricity in 1911, 7 years after the city of Sydney, factories and engineering works began to dominate the area.
Electricity substations were erected. Substation number 101 was constructed in 1919 by the Municipal Council of Sydney in response to the industrialisation of the area. It was primarily constructed to supply power to the neighbouring Meadows factory.
Similar to other industrial suburbs, it was known as the Birmingham of Australia. In an area of just over 1,000 acres, there were 550 factories.
By the 1930s, Alexandria was regarded as an industrial suburb. The noise and odours of the various manufacturing works added to its industrial reputation.
Today's Ashmore precinct site, now in the suburb of Erskineville, was originally in the Borough of Alexandria. 2 steel engineering works and the Metters factory were located there.
Metters was once a household name. Their factory on Mitchell Road employed over 1,000 people. The company produced baths, basins, sinks, electric and gas stoves, the famous cosy heaters and early cooker stoves.
Originating in South Australia, the company established a factory on Alice Street, Newtown in 1902. A boom in demand required upgrades and expansions to the factory. The company purchased 18 acres of land at the corner of Ashmore Street and Mitchell Road in 1907 to construct a new factory. Manufacturing of its wide range of products continued until it was purchased by Walloo Proprietary Limited in 1972. Another sale in 1974 to the Email Proprietary Limited saw the liquidation of factories and land.
McPherson's and Hadfield Steelworks produced steel castings for railways, tramways, shipbuilding and mining operations, also steel components for the Sydney Harbour Bridge. The Hadfield's works occupied 4 acres in the Ashmore precinct from 1915 until the 1970s.
Land at the end of Alexandria Park, now home of Alexandria Park Community School, was the site of the Federal Match Factory. In 1914, Carl Gustav Sundström signed a contract with Quirk's Lighting and Engineering to buy a portion of their land. He established 2 companies fronting Park Road, the Continental Paper Bag Company on a smaller section, and on the remainder he built the Federal Match Factory.
After the Continental Paper Bag Company's building was damaged by fire in 1920, the Match Factory took over the premises. The factory had a reputation for its social practices. Sundström built 2 tennis courts at the site, and during further extensions in 1931 he added a bowling green. Lunch of soup and bread was also provided every day for factory employees. The Federal Match Company produced many brands including Federal, Kookaburra, Captain Cook and matches for the civil service stores.
When World War II broke out, the company manufactured matchboxes printed with patriotic slogans. Customers were advised that the enemy listens, guard your tongue, don't spread rumour, silence saves lives. Careless talk cost soldiers' lives, warned people of the dangers of mindless gossip. While saving is serving, buy national bonds. Ask the public to put their cash towards the country's war effort. The Federal Match Factory closed in the 1970s.
Crown Glassworks was first listed in the Sands Directory at Alexandria in 1919. The glassworks in Euston Road was offered for sale as a going concern in 1921. It was acquired by the Australian Glass Manufacturing Company. In 1926 they established a new business, Australian Window Glass Proprietary Limited. A building application was lodged in 1929 to erect a factory in Euston Road for making sheet glass for the first time in Australia. The factory opened in 1930.
In the 1970s, the factory was taken over by Pilkington ACI. Sheet glass production was terminated in 1976. CSR acquired Pilkington's in 2007. The factory closed 2 years later. Approval was given for demolition of all buildings on the site except the warehouse fronting Euston Road. This allowed for the construction of a Bunnings warehouse.
Lempriere, Australia's largest producer of printing metals and solders, white and red metal alloys and metal products, established a business in Melbourne in 1870. The company installed a tin smelter at Alexandria in 1923. It changed from being a manufacturer of ores and metals into a more diversified operation.
The Sydney Engineering Company, Coote and Jorgensen Limited, was established in 1928. The company's first site was in Camperdown. In 1936, they moved to larger premises on Botany Road. By this time, the company was a medium-sized engineering operation producing manufacturing machinery such as wire drawing machines and industrial power transmissions. In the early post-war years, the company began to make car replacement parts. The company moved to Fairfield and began operation there in 1952. It became Borg-Warner Australia in 1958.
After acquiring land in Alexandria in 1930, Genzano and Company applied for a licence to manufacture wine. The Sydney Morning Herald reported, Genzano and Company, a wine and spirit firm of Turin, Italy, was granted a licence yesterday to establish a wine and spirit depot at Botany Road and Birmingham Street, Alexandria. portion of the building is to be set aside for the manufacture of wines from grapes grown within New South Wales. Cocktails are also to be made. Genzano occupied the site on Birmingham Street for many decades, with its heyday in the 1970s and 80s. Today, the factory site is Europa Apartments.
The Frank G. Spurway building on the corner of Euston Road and Maddox Street was built in 1940. It was redeveloped in the early 2000s as part of the Sydney Park Business Centre, a hub for the creative industries with 72 commercial office suites.
The former National Springs Igloo building in O'Riordan Street was built in 1941 as a government annex to manufacture aircraft undercarriages. The building is credited with being the first to use glue-laminated timber for large-scale building construction in Australia. Further alterations to the site occurred in the 1980s, with the construction of new commercial warehouses that have now been demolished for residential development.
The Oliver family set up their electric company in a warehouse at Fountain Street in 1942. The company was run from its Alexandria base by 3 generations of the family until relocating to Balgowlah. The building was redeveloped into apartments.
Wilson Brothers Willow Kitchenware Company was in Ralph Street. It started as Wilson Brothers in 1889, producing tin plateware including canisters. The company extended into plastics in 1959. They became Willowware Proprietary Limited in 1965. Canisters ceased to be made in the early 1980s, and a successful microwave cooking range was started.
The Alexandria Spinning Mills Limited was one of the nation's largest spinners and weavers of cotton and woolen goods in the first half of the 20th century. The factory was the scene of major strikes in the 1930s and 40s. Among other products, the mill made twin-proof hand-knitting wools, sunbeam and sunglow knitting books. The Alexandria Spinning Mills continued as a proprietor of the land until the mid-1960s. From 2003 to 2007, the buildings were subsequently converted to other uses. Q Stores and Commonwealth Industrial Gases on Burke Road, now the site of Sydney Corporate Park.
Standard telephones and cables are on Mandible Street.
New uses for old sites are
The Mill, a creative business park with common areas and green courtyards, based in 12 refurbished historic buildings which feature exposed brick walls and sawtooth roofs. An old-fashioned orange petrol pump guards the exit driveway.
The grounds Alexandria is housed in a 1920s industrial precinct, the site of a former parking lot and before that a pie factory. It has multiple restaurant areas, a petting zoo, a florist and event spaces.
As an industrial area with many workers, Alexandria had numerous hotels. Several of them were established as watering holes to cater for the men working at the nearby Everleigh Railway Yards. By 1886 there were 22 hotels within a 2-kilometre radius.
The Alexandria Hotel, one of the historical landmarks in the area, is now Backyard at the Alex.
Boundary Hotel in Wyndham Street, built circa 1878, was acquired by Tooth & Company in 1918. Renovated and renamed Technology Park Hotel in 2009, it is now closed.
The Bugle Horn Hotel on the corner of Henderson Road and Wyndham Street was built in 1925 in the Art Deco style. It was rebuilt in the 1930s and still exists as the Lord Raglan. After the foundation stone for a new council chambers was laid, the company adjourned to the Bugle Horn Hotel, where a repast was provided.
The Balaclava Hotel on the corner of Buckland Street and Mitchell Road commenced trading in the early 1880s. It became known as the Buckland, before a spell as Fratelli Fresh, now the Mitch.
Bow Bells Hotel on Botany Road was still trading in the 1950s, before it was demolished in the 60s.
Camellia Grove Hotel, which claimed to be established in 1869, was not listed in the Sands Directory till the 1880s. Tooth & Company took over in 1898. Modification was made circa 1912, still trading today.
The Cricketer's Arms on Botany Road at the corner of Henderson Road was known as Sycamore Hotel or Sycamore Tree Hotel from 1876, becoming the Cricketer's Arms in 1885. It was rebuilt circa 1928 when Henderson Road was widened.
The Empress of India on Botany Road traded between 1883 and 1938, now demolished. Political candidates addressed meetings from the balcony of the hotel.
The Star Hotel on Botany Road traded as an hotel for 100 years from 1886, now converted into residential apartments.
The Iron Duke, named after the first Duke of Wellington, Field Marshal Arthur Wellesley, began trading in 1882 on the corner of Botany Road and McAvoy Street. It relocated to the opposite side of the intersection during the 1930s. One owner of the Iron Duke, Neddy Smith, a convicted heroin trafficker, survived a murder attempt there in 1986.
The Parkview Hotel was once one of Sydney's toughest pubs, the haunt of hard-drinking men and frequented by members of notorious razor gangs that plagued the inner city. In 1926, the barroom floor was described in one newspaper story as looking like a slaughterhouse floor after a man had his throat slashed in a razor attack. In recent years, it has had several transformations.
The Glenroy Hotel on Botany Road, established in 1856, was known as the Salvation Inn for a number of years. It was rebuilt circa 1910 with many later alterations. Still trading today, it has retained the 1930s external wall tiles and doors.
The Stepney Hotel was named after a district in London's East End. From 1888 it was a Tooth and Company house. It closed in 1938 and the licence transferred to the Swanson Hotel in Erskineville. The fifth publican of the hotel was Benjamin Lafleur, who ended his life by swallowing a large dose of muriatic or hydrochloric acid in 1897.
St Lazarus Serbian Orthodox Church was founded in 1955. Circa 1962, it purchased a property at Alexandria, previously owned by St Mark's Anglican Church.
Cleveland Street Boys High School and Waterloo High School became Cleveland Street High School in 1982. Becoming a community school in 2001, it was renamed Alexandria Park Community School. In 2003, Alexandria Public School, Redfern Public School and Waterloo Public School were merged into the community school.
Sydney Park, formerly the site of major brickworks, has nearly 100 acres of picnic areas, gardens, walking, running and biking paths, wetlands and a playground.
A purpose-built cricket and AFL oval, which opened in 2003, was named after cricketer Alan Davidson.
Sydney school children can participate in road safety lessons at the Sydney Park Cycling Centre.
Green Square is located at a five-way intersection where the four suburbs of Alexandria, Zetland, Waterloo and Beaconsfield meet. The Green Square Town Centre is one of the largest urban renewal projects in Australia. The library and plaza are at the heart of the centre. The underground library, with a subterranean garden and open-air amphitheatre, serves the community in the new apartment blocks.
Sydney Corporate Park is bordered by Burke Road, Doody and O'Riordan Streets, a business park hosting offices of over 80 companies. Besides offices, the site also features a cinema, an entertainment zone with facilities for indoor trampolining, bowling and skiing, restaurants, retail shops and a brewery. It is also the location of the Hillsong Alexandria campus.
The Arcadia community was developed for Defence Housing Australia. 50% of the site is occupied by Defence Force personnel and their families. The general public live in the remaining 50%. It was built using recycled bricks.
The Homemakers Centre has 25 stores under one roof.
Today, buildings have been repurposed, factories have been demolished, Business complexes and apartment buildings have risen from the rubble.
If you have enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel. It's free. And check out our website, stpeterscooksriverhistory.wordpress.com. Visit us the first Saturday of every month from 1:30 to 4:30 at 187 Princess Highway, St Peters.